What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight podcast powered by Andrade and Levine Accident Attorneys. Happy Sunday. I'm still in Philadelphia, about to catch my flight back to the free state of Florida, but we got some recruiting to talk about, my friends. So a lot of big-time visitors on campus, big-time defensive ends, pass rushers. Sebastian Fon is actually at the visiting site right now, talking to kids. So those updates are still pouring in. I've been in communication with him, still trying to figure out what's going on there. But so far, the initial buzz is good. We'll talk about that and more. Keep the chat rolling, and we'll keep providing information from that weekend against Sebastian's up close and personal, interviewing kids. I'll be talking to sources as well. Dropped 2 banks last week. You'll see more this week. But first, talk about some folks that are always on the scene working. That is Andrade and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Andrade and Levine. Pete, hop in.
D, how you doing?
How are you doing, man? You're a globe trotter. So let us know what's going on.
I'm here in Madrid right now. I woke up, man, to the crazy news. That was bombshell. JJ Edwards, what a pickup. That was a nice one. I really like his speed and athleticism at the position. But no, I'm excited about this one. Major move here for this D lineman.
There you go. This guy Pete, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I think the European.
I did sleep for like 12 hours last night. So I took the flight from Miami at 3:15. So it was a 3:15 flight, and then I landed at it was morning time over here in Madrid. So we really didn't sleep. And then I slept like 12 hours last night. So it was great. Canes Cat Seat. I'm not staying at the Four Seasons, but I just had lunch over there, man. Beautiful place.
It's like a Rick Ross verse. Your lifestyle right now, having Four Seasons brunch there in Madrid.
CanesInSight pays well, man. What can I say?
It's amazing, man. Baseball. I know baseball's hot because it's a big recruiting weekend. You got all these studs on campus. I've got like 4 baseball recruiting questions right off the top, man. So shout out to JD for getting this thing juiced up. Anthony, shortstop, second base. We got Van Shahan. He's in the Cape right now, committed from USC Upstate. Going to be a major player. Could be doing more, but we still got some recruiting to talk about football wise. So we'll definitely get this thing going. So Big Pete, one name I wanted to talk about because it's not a name we talked about a lot. We talked about him on the visit preview show, but some of the initial buzz I'm getting, and I've not talked to any of the kind of sources because I'm not there on site, but I'm talking to Sebastian, who is there, and just kind of picking up the buzz. And I'd never heard anything negative about this process before. In other words, Miami always felt they had a shot when I talked to him with this guy, Nolan Wilson, the defensive end out of Picayune, Mississippi. Just talking to Sebastian, Gabby put something out. And I saw an interview he did. His last interview was Miami, and I get the sense that he's got a lot of interest in the Canes coming out of that last official visit. There's someone who visited unofficially in the spring. So it's not like he's not been to Miami or expressed that kind of interest. He's visited, Ole Miss, Auburn, Alabama, I believe, is the big competition there. So SEC kind of murderer's row for a kid from Picayune, Mississippi. But last visit to Miami, and from what I'm seeing, could be a good one. So nice to get some movement on these visits, maybe where you don't expect it.
Yeah, and I mean, look, what kind of sticks out to me with him, and we talked about him, I believe it was last week, but the size, right? Like he's not, yes, he's an edge rusher, but a lot of these edge rushers that Miami's been picking up, for better or for worse, they all kind of need to add. That's kind of the caveat that you have with them is, man, twitch, ability to get after the quarterback, but they need to bulk up. And yes, Wilson will have, he'll get in the weight room like any of these other guys, but 240, 245 already. He's kind of there already.
Yeah. And this is the type we talk about this all the time, Pete. Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia. These are the body types you're trying to get on the defensive line. This is why the reason the SEC gets so many, has really dominated college football really since the Canes handed it over, is because they get these guys, and they get these guys every year, and they get these guys in waves. And it's just, if you don't have them, it's you're not in the game. I mean, there's only so many of them. You either have them or you don't. It's kind of haves and have-nots. So I think this would be a huge, huge, huge win. Obviously, remember Camarian, what's his last name? The guy from Mississippi that we lost to Ole Miss last year, Camarian. I'm sure someone in the chat remembers. But similar kind of body type out of Mississippi, who in that big class.
It's not Miller.
Maybe someone in the chat will remind me, I'm sure. But there was a big
Cam Franklin, right?
Cam Franklin, yeah, similar ranking, similar size out of Mississippi. Ended up signing with Ole Miss. Miami had him on the ropes. Miami had that guy pretty close several times. Ultimately, it's hard to get those guys. So we'll see. Thank you, Josh. Cameron Franklin. Appreciate that, Jimmy. Hardest working show in America. We're trying, man. It's not working.
Well, I don't know. America, Spain, Japan, everywhere, right. Man.
St. Lucia. So, but yeah, man. So I think you never know with these Southern guys. They go back home. They see the Waffle Houses on the street and they get that homesickness, but I think with respect to this is the best you could hope for is to get them down for the second time and knock the visit out the park. Shout out to Jason Taylor and the whole crew for doing a good job there. You also, another guy visiting this weekend who I continue to feel good about. I got the fresh intel, but I've consistently heard we're in good shape here. Ashari Charles, the defensive end out of Venice.
I've heard the same.
Smaller guy than Nolan Wilson, but powerful. I think he's probably 6'2", 6'3", 230, but like he's one of these guys that's twitchy, tightly wound, gets under guys, has powers, plays hard, plays tough, great program in Venice. So 4-star player, highly recruited. So that's the kind of guy that can really help you. And if you look at kind of the way Miami's defense is set up, you have the boundary deep, as we watch Charles there, you have the boundary defensive ends who are kind of your quicker guys, your stand-up guys. Who are going to be playing closer to the boundary, closer to the sideline. Then you have your field defensive end, who's your bigger, longer guy. That's not a guy you want to get swallowed up because he's got the whole field to his side. So that's your Hayden Lowe's, right? Your Armando Blunts, guys like that. So I think in this class, you get an Ashari Charles on one side, would be, I guess, like Herbert Scroggins last year. And then you get your, let's say, Nolan Wilson, because he's the one we're talking about, on the other side with being your Hayden Lowe of this class. That'd be a home run situation. There's other names in the mix too, but I think those would be two. They're on campus right now, and everything we're hearing is that those visits were very successful.
Yep, without a doubt. And Ashari Charles, listen, I know there's people in the recruiting department who think that this guy's upside is as good as any as a pass rusher. And it's kind of like corner that we always talk about. It's such a traits-based position, and there's development and coaching is extremely important at that spot. But Charles, I think, value-wise, could be a huge pickup for them in this class if it happens. And look, I wasn't on yesterday to talk about the two big topics, which obviously was Jason Lopez getting his basketball offer officially, and then JJ Edwards. But we saw the tweet from Dennis, and we see some of the stuff building on social media, and you would think that yes, Edwards is a nice start to that. But when you talk about a Nolan Wilson, a top 100 player in the class, and some of these other guys that we know that they're working on hoping to close, like a Brett Kaloje, not to give anything like any secrets away here, but how many guys do we expect maybe to become Canes here in the next few weeks, would you say?
As far as commits, let's see how I want to see the dust settle from this weekend, because again, I haven't gotten that fresh intel. But if I had to go over the list, so we're going to talk about Javian Mallory in a second. So that's another situation that's going to impact this, because I want to talk about that. But just this weekend, Ashari Charles is one I would have circled. Wilson, I don't know where that's going to go, but that would happen, I think, pretty soon. All these guys are done with their visits for the most part, so that's one to keep an eye on. Jason Lopez, again, very curious to hear the intel out of this visit, but he's someone Miami has loved for a while. And Miami FSU, there's not much to see for him. Jay Lamar, who, again, we can see that running back situation. We're going to talk about that one here in a second, because I think that's a very interesting one. But he's someone that he's just come back from Georgia. We'll see how that plays out. Israel Briggs commits on Tuesday. That's Miami or LSU. I like Miami. That's one, right off the top. Tyron Evans, who we're going to talk about in a second, who just returned to Miami on an official visit. That one circled on my list for sure. James Johnson just visited Texas. That could be like a lot of these guys are going to commit around July 4th, I think. You'll see a lot of action. Brett Kaloje, you mentioned. Freddie Wilson, who, I'll get some more intel on him. I haven't talked about him. I haven't really asked about him. I should. That's on me. The defensive tackle out of Spruce Creek, Port Orange, which I believe is by Daytona Beach. The 3-star, kind of like more of your depth defensive tackle, which the idea is you get a guy like that. You don't have to keep bringing in portal guys, right? You can develop him slowly. He was back on campus, so that's another one to keep an eye on as well. So there's a few guys, man. Derek Cooper, as far as the big ticket items, he's visiting Ohio State this week, or just coming back now, but Miami's been hot on his trail. Zachary Turner, we talked about him, where Miami's getting some momentum. There's a tight end from Duncanville, Texas, Dallas, Texas area. Miami's getting some momentum with Zachary Turner. He already visited SMU, which was your biggest competition. We feel good coming out of that visit. Brody Jennings, the corner from committed to Michigan. He's on a tour of visits, but really, had a lot of momentum from a flip to Miami leading up to and through his visit. So these are all just names that kind of jump out to me that get my attention. Burstone, always appreciate you. Like and subscribe. Shout out to the villains.
And D, I'll say on Jason Lopez, I haven't had a chance to see what you had said about that basketball offer yesterday, but just my quick 2 cents on it. I mean, I think we've been pretty steadfast in saying we think he's an incredible player and that we would love for him to be a Cane. I heard a few weeks back, as I've said here for the last 3-4 weeks, the holdup from the Miami side, what in terms of his big time interest, was the basketball offer. He wanted to play both sports, and that, I believe, now that that's out of the way, that hurdle is out of the way, it should be a done deal is a strong word, but I feel very, very strongly about Miami's chances there, right? Especially understanding where the class is right now at receiver. It has to be a very enticing situation for him. I'm going to do some digging and get some info from the basketball side as well to kind of get their thoughts on him as a player and all that. Because, look, Jay Lucas wasn't going to do this if he didn't think the kid was able to play, ACC basketball, right? And as a point guard, a position that Jay Lucas is very picky about his point guards, right? So
he was a point guard,
yeah. So look, you're understanding he's going to probably have a certain role. You're not going to expect him to be, the leading scorer of a team, but I think he could be a really interesting player off the bench as, a pesky on-ball defender and a good secondary, third type of ball handler on a team, right? So there's a role he could play. I really think that on the basketball court. Now, just my speculation, I kind of speculated it last week. Does this kind of mean something in terms of Calvin Russell? Just because I kind of said, look, I'm going to speculate here last week, maybe on Monday or Tuesday show, what I said, because we did a show. Is Calvin Russell trending away from Miami? And I said, look, my guess is that he gets on campus this weekend, and we understand it's kind of going the other way with Russell. It's not saying his offer is going here, but I still would have had a hard time believing there would have been 2 football players at the University of Miami on the basketball team. It's just a rare thing, right? So could it have happened? Maybe, but I think that not that I had any info on it, but I think it kind of played out that way.
No doubt about it. And I think what I like, and I really want to dig into the basketball. I want to hear your info from what they say, and also just talking to people about what he plays like, because I've only seen the highlights, and basketball is really not a highlight sport. You got to see how someone plays in the flow of a game, how they impact the game, and just kind of how they approach it. But I mean, I know he's solidly built for a point guard. He's not the tallest guy in the world, but the guy's got some size. Hope you're texting some sources and not putting in some soccer pics.
I wouldn't be able to put soccer pics, or I'm in a different country.
Oh, it's gambling's not legal there?
I mean,
there's no sports betting in Madrid. I don't know. What's the story there?
I mean, I would have to seek it out. It's not like readily available, at least from what I
know you
I
got
haven't tried.
He's got the Discord. You can see on his Twitter. He's got the Discord with the soccer picks. So how's your record, by the way? I heard you're on a pretty good run here.
Up and down recently. I've been focused on this trip here.
Well, if you're in Spain or anywhere else, follow those picks. You can get I'm sure there's like an offshore book in like Canary Islands or something. But anyway, so I forgot. Oh, the Lopez basketball player. He's thickly built. He's a football player, so you see him on the football field. He likes contact. You see defensive highlights on his highlight reel. I'm assuming he has some of that to him, the football mentality, the ability to really, guard that point guard position and be the tip of the spear for your defense, which when you look at Jay Lucas, like to look, not just what he says, but what he's done so far. He likes physical guys. He likes guys with some body, some muscle to him. He likes guys that want to play defense. So if Lopez, he's not the tallest guy, but he's certainly strong and has that football background, can give you some of that, he might be a fit. Now, really what you need on the team, as we know, we've talked about, is that shooting prong. So I'd be curious to see, is this guy like a guy that just shoots off the dribble? We've seen him in the highlights. Is he like a guy that if you leave him open and his feet are set, he's actually deadly? I'm curious as the shooting part of this guy, because I know he could shoot, but I wonder if he's like a dead-eye shooter, if he's just kind of like a rhythm shooter. Obviously we compare him to like Eddie Rios or like Angel Rodriguez. Those are like the easy comparisons because of his size and heritage. But I really wonder what kind of shooter this guy is.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's taller than Angel. And Angel, I have to watch more of Lopez. Obviously, I've seen a lot of clips. You got to watch a full game to understand how a point guard plays, kind of what you're saying. But Angel could really command the floor, man. It's he was such a dog out there. Again, not that Lopez couldn't, but I'm not gonna just sit here and compare him because Angel was a real good point guard, man.
Yeah, and when you look at the stats for Lopez, you see much more scoring than passing.
Yeah,
just on the stats
for sure.
Like
yeah, Angel could score, but Angel wasn't just Angel wasn't a guy who even, he wasn't a guy who was just like a streaky scorer who could put up like 30 a game. That was not his game.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. But obviously, we talked about him a lot. We want him to be a Cane. That'd be huge. So another guy I want to talk about, Pete, really a situation I want to talk about is the Javian Mallory situation. So he did an interview with Sebastian Fon. You can see it on CanesInSight.com, 7.44 million posts and counting, all free on that website. You see the interview he did. I talked to, again, I'm here in a different state and Sebastian's on the ground working, but he shot me a text and checking right now, make sure I didn't miss anything from him. But basically what he said was, talking to Mallory, he put the interview out, said all the right things about the Canes, but, he's like, could there be more going on here? I don't know. Right. And I think knowing when you going into the visit, which is Miami really did not like this Alabama visit from a guy that was committed to the program locally, because what you don't want is guys that commit early, say they're solid. You don't have to worry about them. You can focus on other guys. Obviously, we had to focus on Derek Cooper, quite a bit to add to the class, a lot of attention there. You don't want to be fighting wars on two fronts when you're the Miami Hurricanes recruiting the running back position. So you get Mallory, you say, okay, he's going to be a solid commit in the class. He's local. He's from a good program now in West Boca with their emergence. So we feel good there. Now he's visiting Alabama, right in the middle of what you're doing. So I don't think that was meant warmly. Obviously, I'm sure they had a great weekend visit and, communication is fine. But Miami continued to recruit Jay Lamar, the top 10 running back out of Moultrie, Georgia, Colquitt County. And he had a great visit last week. He went to Georgia this week. Georgia also contended for Derek Cooper. So we'll see how that all kind of unwraps. But at least as of last week, Jay Lamar had a ton of interest in the Miami Hurricanes. And Miami getting that has a chance to get that done. So we'll see how this whole thing plays out. All I know, and I've been saying this consistently, I think Derek Cooper's the guy that has a guaranteed spot, and the other spot is going to be very, very interesting to watch over the next few days.
I shouldn't be laughing at this, but I'm kind
I
of
want to know what you were laughing about.
because Canes Cats Heat 305 says, and after they took his commitment after what happened to him last year, because he always references he was in a car accident, but he was competing in camps like right after that, and all these other schools want him too. So it's not like he was like I mean, look, I probably shouldn't be speaking on a situation I don't know fully, but he was competing like pretty soon after that. And Canes Cats Heat, look, I don't think they were doing it as a pity case, is all I'm saying.
Yeah,
They wanted him.
Clutch is saying, I agree with you, Pete, by the way. Clutch saying, echo, and I apologize for the echo. I know Pete was having issues with his headphones last time. That was kind of hurting we were having some trouble with that.
I may have been standing too close to the speaker because I can't connect my headphones at the same time as this mic. So
yeah,
I think it was because I was leaning in there. So it should be better now.
Yeah, we're working on it. I apologize. Trying to get it done, man. Pete's the only person in Spain working on a Sunday. I promise you. He's probably the only person working on a Monday or Tuesday out there as well.
Yeah, especially in the middle of the day now. They're all napping.
But anyways, appreciate it again. Sorry about that echo. That step back did a nice job there.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I mean, it's interesting. I'm just looking at some of the news coming in. Again, texting with Sebastian, Ashari Charles. I think that's one you put on that list that you watch. But I want to focus on someone else here that we talked about last week. And this guy made it. He visited unofficially in the spring. That was the first kind of touch point there. Committed to Tennessee, then visited officially as a Tennessee commit, decommitted. I think that was the order. Close together, decommitted from Tennessee, official visit to Miami, and now returned this week on an unofficial visit. That's Tyrant Evans, the wide receiver from Charlotte. Talking to Sebastian, who's been around in the last 2 weekends. He says, man, this guy, he really is huge. Just the size. So the film speaks for itself. He's got a lot of twitch for his size, but you're talking about a guy who's 6'3", 200, and looks the part. That's official verified measurables. They weighed him, they measured him, but just being around him, he has that size to him. And one thing that you get from talking to sources, and this is something that's been repeated time and time again, is he just has a lot of athleticism for his size. Again, look, I have not put a stopwatch on him. I have not seen him in person, so it's hard for me to say it. But the belief of those who have watched him up close is that this guy's a big-time prospect, big-time speed, and they are over the moon to potentially land this guy, separate from Tristan Keys, separate from Calvin Russell. Those guys, their recruitment operates independently and is, of course, very important to get in the recruiting class where you want it to be, is to get one of those guys. They've been targets forever. But a guy like Evans and a guy like Lopez, I think both have very, very high internal grades, very productive players. Both of them, I think Evans had about 1,000 yards against good competition, maybe 25, something like that, yards per catch, a really gaudy yards per catch number. Lopez, 1,300 yards in football, which is crazy. Also 25 points per game on the hardwood. I mean, just insane stats. These guys play for real programs, played with real players against real players. Chaminade, what they got there. Evans plays against Samari Matthews, who Miami thinks might be one of the best players in the country, period, on defense. He's a cornerback. Probably leads to Texas right now, but visited Miami a couple times, and Miami will keep recruiting until the end. So I think if you can get Evans, you can get Lopez, and those guys are committed, then you're in a very strong position as you try to add that cherry on top, which is the Tristan Keys, which is the Calvin Russell, which is whatever else happens here. And if you're able to have continued success, I think that will help. Now, look, you can't put too much on the season because, I made a good season last year and they finished as weak as they've ever finished. I mean, I think very good season relative to the last 20 years. And they didn't finish as strong as you thought. So that showed me that, the season's a little bit overrated when it comes to that class. In this case, you already have a top 5, top 10 type class nucleus coming into the season, most likely with the way things are playing out based on what you did last year. So maybe it doesn't make a difference for the whole class, but a guy like a Tristan Keys, a guy like a Calvin Russell who's local, get him over the hump, especially if maybe there are other teams, like let's say Calvin Russell commits to LSU, LSU has their issues and disappoints this year, and there's pressure on Kelly. That would free him up potentially. You look at a Tristan Keys. I'm just picking a team because I don't know that. I think Miami's has a good shot. I think Miami's a much better shot to get Tristan Keys the first time than Russell the first time, meaning on this next fit. Let's say Tristan Keys flips to Tennessee, just to pick a team because they're an Adidas school coming up. Tennessee's got their problems. They could have a really bad season on offense, so that could put him back in play. Again, I think Miami could get Tristan Keys on his next commitment if he does leave LSU. And I think Miami feels very good that, very good. Miami feels that they can be in it for Calvin Russell till the end. So lock up these players that you feel good that they can play at the level you need to play to win the ACC and to compete for championships, meaning Evans and Lopez. And then you got to finish the class with those guys. It's not an either or situation, which I think is how it gets interpreted sometimes by people on Twitter. I've seen it there like, oh, these are replacement guys. Not the case at all. These are independently talented players, very talented players. Miami has high internal grades on for reasons we discussed on the show. Get them in place and then go continue to hunt that last piece, which would be either a Keys, Russell, or some other name that I'm missing. But wait, almost 1,300 on. Like and subscribe to this program.
We had a comment here from Birdstone who said Evans equals Horton 2.0. I said that the other day. I mean, that's the closest thing I think we've seen recently, similar in terms of their rankings. Horton was ranked a bit higher, but it's not like Horton was a consensus 4-star across the board where everyone was like, wow, Miami's really pulling a big-time player out of SEC country. To me, Evans gives off a lot of those vibes where even when you watch him, people are asking if he's fast. I'm not going to sit here and call him a speedster, but he's not slow. And because you see him, you see his yards after catch ability, you see some of the twitch with the ball in his hands. Horton, I think we saw it in moments. We didn't see it consistently here at Miami. A lot of the routes he was running, I don't know if that he was necessarily able to show a lot of his upside there, but I mean, to me, that's a pretty solid comparison in terms of skill set.
Yep, I like that potential comparison there.
And you don't see him going, like, even though he's a bigger body guy, you don't see him in the highlights just mossing people, just out physicaling. No, it's not a word, but being a red zone bully. Doesn't seem like that's his game in the scheme of their offense. Similarly to Isaiah Horton at Miami.
Jake Campbell makes the point. The long game didn't work out well last year, unfortunately. And I hear you, and I think you're right about that. But what I would say is kind of do both. So you did in 2023 flip Armando LeBlanc as a 5-star late in the process from FSU. You flipped Justin Scott a 5-star late in the process from Ohio State. So it can be done. You just don't want to rely on it. So I think you have your quarterback. You got to get Derek Cooper in the boat, maybe a Jay Lamar. Right, however that running back room situates. You get your tight ends in the boat, including Israel Briggs, top 10 tight end in the country, and then Zachary Turner, who I think, quite frankly, is better based on what I've seen. Get those two in the boat. Offensive line, you got the number one player in the country. You get a Kaloje, that's pretty clearly, to me, the number one offensive line group in the country. So that's your offense. You're in good shape there with the two receivers missing that one kind of star on the top of the Christmas tree with the Keys or Russell. Defensively, Nolan Wilson, you're working to try to get that one done. Shari Charles, you're working to get that one done. James Johnson, who's visiting Texas, you're working to get that one done. So you could get that defensive line room kind of where you want it to be. There's other names in the mix as well. So linebacker, you got J.J. Edwards, you got Jordan Campbell. Defensive back, you're pretty much done. You got to finish with a Blake Stewart and hopefully a Devin Jackson, those two, right? But basically, you're in pretty good shape there, maybe Brody Jennings. Point being, you'll have most of the work done now. And then it's like you're playing the long game, but you're not playing the long game with like a whole class. You're playing the long game with a couple of guys. I use that example, that star on the top of the Christmas tree, which would be a Keys or a Russell. And Keys might not be down the road. But if you need to kind of get that last push over the edge, it could happen.
Yeah, I just wanted to get to –
before you get on, I want to pull something up, because we're getting a lot of questions about commitments and all that. So I want to pull something here. 1 second. All right, so Coach Field, who I don't know his official title right now, but he's a recruiting executive director of football recruiting. Right there, fire emoji, strong arm, fire emoji. That was 9:59 a.m. So about 17 minutes ago. I've seen a couple other of these from staffers. So, that's when they're doing when they want to pull things up and get everybody excited. But that's certainly a sign that things are going well. At least they think things are going well. And we'll see what happens. But I expect us to have a little run here of commitments in the near future. And the names are the names we talked about.
It's either that or Coach Field just finished up a good workout, man. You saw his progress picture that he posted recently. So I don't know.
Looks great, man. What a beast.
Clutch 22, I just wanted to get to this comment he made real quick, and I actually have to get off here in a couple minutes, Steve, but he says Horton was this is back to the Tyron Evans-Horton comparison. His Horton was our clear number one this year. I don't know if Evans will be that good. I will say this, it would have been year 4 for Horton, right? So, and remember, Horton was a developmental guy his first really 2-3 years here, or 3 years, 2 years, and then year 3 was when he had his breakout last season. This would have been his 4th year. So yeah, I mean, would Evans have been the number one? Will he be the number one or number 1 or 2 top guy right when he steps on campus? No, but give it a few years. Who knows? Because I think that's the sort of development that you'd be looking for with him.
Absolutely, I think you said it. This would have been year 4 for Horton. And one area where I think Evans is ahead of Horton is he weighs more. So Horton came back, I want to say, going into last year. So that'd be going into his junior year. And we were the first ones talking about it, Pete. We talked about it every day pretty much on the show during that spring practice. Was Horton looks like a different guy physically. And Evans, from what I've seen, what I've heard, and what you see on the scale, he's already kind of there. So he has less physical development to do than a Horton. I think you still kind of play the slower game with an Evans, unless he tells you otherwise with his play, and you say you can bring him along slow. Definitely, you don't have to, some of these other guys like a Tristan Keys, it's going to be hard to bring that guy on slow. You bring him in, he doesn't play, he probably bounces. Evans, I think you could bring along slow, but he might demand playing time. Dalen Upshaw's somebody who I don't think you're planning to play him early, but he's been playing so well in camp, he's going to have a chance to play. So we'll see how it goes. But that makes a lot of sense.
Question here. Do you think our walk-on program is going away? If so, the Evans take makes sense. Evans is a take for the 85 and is a guy that is good enough to play at Miami as a starting receiver down the line.
Yeah, this is a guy that Tennessee is trying to keep. You have to get him from Tennessee. Yeah, the walk-on, that's not the equivalent comparison there at all. He's already been named a 4-star by On3, I believe. And my guess is the trend with him is on the upward in terms of ranking. So he'll probably be a 4-star player, probably ranked pretty similarly to Horton when it's all said and done.
You mentioned it earlier. The competition there is good. It's good competition. We had our guy Joe Williams from You Heard, whose son had played at a high level and was a big prospect at Miami from the Carolinas, correct? So I mean, he's very familiar with the talent in the area. He said it's big time competition up there. So I don't see anything where I'm like, this guy isn't good enough to play for Miami. Am I saying am I saying this is a can't miss prospect, right? Like a no brainer. I'm not saying that either, but the kind of suggestion that this guy isn't good enough to be recruited by Miami is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's why it's evaluation. Maybe we see him play and we're like, man, this guy's not Miami material when he gets here, right? If we get him, no one really knows. I guess what I would say is just that's very far off from how he's currently viewed by Miami and really by other teams in that area. And I think ultimately he already is on that 4-star borderline. Some On3 has him already over it. I think probably by the end of the process, you will see Evans as a 4-star receiver by like the consensus industry ranking. So we'll see. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's the trend it's going. Had a really good spring, had a really good season last year, and the buzz is going that direction as opposed to losing steam. Over 1,500 on, by the way. So Appreciate everybody on. Like and subscribe.
I gotta hop off here.
What do you got going on?
I gotta get to some more stuff here. But all right, guys. I got some sort of tuk-tuk tour, whatever that means.
Enjoy.
I think we get in these it's like these little golf carts that take you around the city. It's not like those big tour buses. It's like those little. It's supposed to be a little bit more of a private experience. So we'll see.
Enjoy the tuk-tuk. Be good. Appreciate you joining us here on Sunday. We'll talk later.
Go Canes.
All right, fellas. So again, over 1,500 on like and subscribe. And I apologize for that echo. Just, we're trying to work through the technical difficulties with P. We couldn't get him on last time. We tried. Now we got him on with a little echo. We'll fix the echo by the time we do the show tomorrow. So again, appreciate you guys bearing with us. But got to give you that Sunday show, man. That Sunday service. It is June 22nd, and recruiting is hot and heavy. I think really what you're going to see is the next 2 weeks, which is going through that first week of July through July 4th, you're going to see a lot of guys coming off the board here at a very high level of play. Canes Cat keeps wanting that baseball talk. I promise you we'll get that baseball talk when the names start rolling in. What I would say is this. Coach Arteaga is in Cape Cod. At least he has been. I don't know if he's still there, but he's been in Cape Cod, which is where the best college baseball players, including guys that are currently in the transfer portal, like not attached to any school, but like many guys are like that. They go up to play in Cape Cod. They have wood bats, scouts everywhere, coaches everywhere, and the best players in the country. Daniel Cuvée up there last year. The three guys that we had in the Cape: Daniel Cuvée, Griffin Hugas, Jonathan. I always call him Jonathan. Jake Ogden. Probably three best players on the team. Ultimately, so that's a big time league, and there's a reason why Coach Arteaga is up there. Yes, he wants to see Daniel Cuvée continue to perform in the Cape and support him. But I'm sure he's also looking at guys that are in the portal. I'm not guessing. I know he's also looking at guys that are in the portal as potential Canes. So we'll keep you posted as that happens. Some of the things, we'll find out in due time. But I think Miami's offense, based on the things I know, it's going to be significantly upgraded from a unit that was second to last in the ACC in runs. There is no complacency just because you won a regional that, hey, we can continue to get by being that, mediocre on offense. They are urgent in upgrading that offense despite the success they had on the field, which is what you want if you're a Canes fan. Anthony Manzano, are you hearing the same things I'm reading that Miami has a legitimate chance of flipping Simeon Caldwell from OSU and Tyler Achatz from Georgia out? I have not heard that. I've not asked about that. Sometimes these things happen, and then I ask about it, and I said I get a yes, right? So I will do some digging on that. That's not something that I've heard necessarily, but I will do some digging on that one. So I think that, another one guy, JJ Finch, defensive tackle, just again, kind of exchanging some text here. I don't sense he was visiting this week, and I don't get a sense that's happening, or at least I haven't seen that. Anything going on there with him from Indiana. It's not like maybe Alabama will be the pick there. I think he announced this today. So, just kind of a visit to take a shot. But really the names of defensive tackle you see us building steam with: James Johnson, who Miami led with going into the weekend. I'll see what happened after Texas, but certainly the feeling going into the weekend was good. I have no reason to back off that until I hear otherwise. And if I do, I'll let you guys know. Nolan Wilson from Mississippi, was kind of defensive end, defensive tackle. I think he's really more of a big defensive end, like a Hayden Lowe. Excuse me. Sounds like he had a very good visit. It might be surging there. Tyson Bacon committed, right, from Alabama. So a lot going on at that defensive tackle position. Anthony Mazzano saying, what's the update on Samari Matthews, teammate of Tyron Evans? Are we recruiting him hard, or are we behind in that recruitment to the point where it's pointless? Definitely not pointless. There's a Charlotte, North Carolina corner, same school as Tyron Evans, visited unofficially in spring, also visited officially. I think Texas, from what I understand, at least that was the last I heard, was the favorite there to potentially get Samari Matthews, but it was a situation where Miami has a good relationship there. There's mutual interest, and they'll keep on recruiting, trying to land Samari Matthews to the U, because internally he is considered one of the top prospects in the country, period. Josh Sarnoff saying 6'3", 200 with speed, and people are questioning if he was a South Florida receiver. Fans would be stoked at a prospect like this, talking about Tyron Evans. Yeah, I mean, look, I get it. I think the fear fans have is they don't want it to be a situation where, hey, you're getting Jason Lopez, you're getting Tyron Evans. We don't need Tristan Keys. We're not going to fight for that one. We're not going to fight for a Calvin Russell, where we're seeing some significant competition. And that's just not the sense I get at all. At all. I think these are players that Miami is pursuing very hard and will continue pursuing till their last breath, right? So we'll see how those unwrap, but I think you still got to get these guys in the class. I think here's one thing I will say, again, while acknowledging, because we'll take these things the wrong way, while acknowledging you got to get a guy like Tristan Keys. You need a wide receiver shaking Roger Goodell's hand, wearing a Miami, pin, right? You know what Cam Ward did for quarterbacks? You need that for a receiver. Jeremiah Smith would have been that. He's not. You would like JoJo Trader to develop into that. So that needs to happen. Tristan Keys is that kind of guy. Maybe Tyron Evans is that kind of guy, or Jason Lopez, but we do need that. So don't take what I'm saying the wrong way. However, one thing that I don't think people are talking about enough, and I know we talked about it in spring because this was my big takeaway, and I watched pretty much every practice in spring. The thing that really caught my attention overall, the freshman wide receivers were excellent. We know about Malachi Toney, great in the spring game. He was the most advanced of the three, just mentally elite, instincts elite. The other two were very good too. Josh Moore, more flashes maybe than consistency, just more of a freshman in that way, but huge body, legitimate, 6'2", 6'3", built like Tyron Evans, probably maybe even bigger, and probably a little bit bigger than Tyron Evans, and like spectacular body control. If you just clipped up Josh Moore's best plays in the spring, you would think this guy was like an all-pro. Now, consistency is the challenge for any kind of receiver that's coming in as a freshman, especially someone who's coming from West Broward, maybe not as advanced like an American Heritage kid like Malachi Toney. But the flashes were outstanding, and he's got a lot of talent now. He's got Carson Beck coming in who plays to his strengths, I think, as someone who likes to throw two receivers who can make contested catches. You remember his chemistry with a Colby Young at Georgia. Okay. So Josh Moore, really good flashes. And then the guy that I've always said since we started recruiting him was one of my favorite in 2023, my favorite guy as far as like a kind of under the radar-ish guy. He's a 4-star player, but not as talked about. Elijah Lofton. That was my favorite player in the 23 class. Still my favorite player. I've been accused of being like, I don't know, an evangelist for this guy. But in 24, or the last class, the guy that I think is very underrated, Dalen Upshaw out of Alabama, Phoenix City. He reminds me of an Allen Hurns. You watched him in high school, put up huge numbers, played next to Corey Coleman, a 5-star player, put up huge, huge numbers against good competition. They won the state championship. His offensive coordinator was Pat Nix, former offensive coordinator for the Canes. His head coach, Pat Nix, former offensive coordinator for the Canes, father of Bo Nix, the standout for the Denver Broncos. This guy put up big numbers. He ran all kinds of routes, not just deep balls and screens, although he did both of those, but in-breaking routes, out routes, hitches, drags, everything you could ask for, he was doing at a high level. Very advanced route tree, good strength, good core strength and balance, which is something you look for receivers. They had the ability to take a hit and keep moving, fall forward, get roughed up a little bit and keep their balance and run their route. I think his core strength, something you see with like the LA Rams receivers, for example, he had that in abundance, and he had good hands and good athleticism. So in seeing him on campus, he showed all that in spring. He was making a lot of plays. So he kind of reminds me of an Allen Hurns. That's the comparison I would have for an Upshaw. So you need to get Miami back to where we're getting big time first round receivers, doing what LSU's doing what Ohio State's doing. That should be Miami. It used to be. When we had Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, and Santana Moss, we were that easily. We're not that right now. It's LSU, it's Ohio State, other schools to a lesser degree. Clemson's had some good receivers as well. So we got to get – Alabama's had, of course, some good receiving cores. We got to get back to that as the Miami Hurricanes. No question. Don't think I'm saying anything different than that. All I'm saying is these freshman receivers were better than I thought they were as far as being potential impact guys. And now you're bringing in two guys and potentially – they're both on campus now, potentially bringing in two guys in a Lopez and an Evans that can really help you. So I think you're going in the right direction at receiver, but that doesn't mean you don't go extremely hard for like a Tristan Keys and make a statement to the country that we are getting the absolute best receivers in America trying to shake Roger Goodell's hand. Bagging up asking, do you think Moore's future is a big body red zone target? Or is he able to get downfield more and do more than win at the catch point? I mean, he can get down. He's athletic. I mean, I don't think he's like going to be, like a Tommy Streeter, one of those big receivers that just runs past people. But I don't think he's going to be like a slug, like Daryl Langham was somebody who made some huge plays for the Canes and was very impactful and really, Canes fans will always love a Daryl Langham, but he didn't really have as much athleticism to do other stuff besides the contested catches, those clutch catches. Moore, I think, is more athletic than that. I would say Moore's kind of like a Kobe Young, but like a better version of a Kobe Young is how I would describe him potentially. Maybe like a Leonard Hankerson potentially. He's more athletic than some of these guys we're talking about. Nick pointing out, we definitely see him a lot more ahead of the game this year compared to recent years when it comes to commits. Again, you have the number one receiver in the country. Number one player in the country, I apologize, with Jackson Cantwell. So that helps. And then we will see how the rest of these 2 weeks go. But I think the check-in point is going to be July 10th. And if we had let's say July 14th. If on July 14th, we're like a top 5, top 10 class, which we are right now, and other teams have made their runs and we're still right there in the mix, I think you're feeling pretty good heading into the season. Kyle saying Alshon Jeffries, my Josh Moore comp. I like that. I'm curious to see how Moore runs with the ball in his hands. He did it well in high school. You don't see it as much in practice, not because he's not doing it. It's just because they don't tackle to the ground. So a big guy like that, like what kind of balance does he have? What kind of ability to break tackles does he have? You see that much more in full contact, which Moore was injured for the spring game, nothing serious, but he wasn't there for the spring game. He might have been nicked up for the scrimmage too. He played most of the spring, but I don't remember him doing as much in the full contact. Definitely during team scrimmages, like without the full contact, he made a lot of plays. But that would be something I'd watch because Alshon Jeffrey was really, really good. Full contact, breaking tackles, doing all those things. Everybody loves Tim asked about Chance Robinson, man. I would love to talk about Chance Robinson. I just haven't seen him play yet. He's always hurt. Big body. I liked his toughness in high school. Huge August for him. He can come in August and make plays over Josh Moore, over some of these other guys. Obviously, I would love to give him an opportunity. I think they'd like them. They recruit him for a reason, but we got to see it on the field with health. Over 1,693, almost 1,700 on Right Now Live. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to sign up for CanesConnection.com/CIS. You want to talk about all these amazing players, potentially trying to get a guy like a Nolan Wilson out of the SEC, a Picayune, Mississippi, out of the enemy territory. Canes Connection is a huge part of that. Be part of the solution. Be part of the cause. I know there's different price points for different people, but whatever you can do, and you're spending on the Canes anyway, spend it on what matters, which is the players, the product on the field. CanesConnection.com, the number one NIL group in the country. Be part of something special. Be part of the reason why Miami holds up that 6th trophy. Miami gets back to the playoffs, while they win the ACC, while we do all these things. If you're part of Canes Connection, you are part of that. If you're not, you're watching. So be part of it. CanesConnection.com/CIS. Make sure you get that /CIS because that's going to give you opportunity to get certain member benefits for CanesInSight members, like my private Zooms, etc. So CanesConnection.com/CIS. And I also got to talk about, before we get to these last updates here, Team Store, man. My guys, Jeremy, Harry, use promo code INSIGHT20. You get 20% off your first item. That's MiamiHTS.com. You get the Miami New Era hats, all different kinds of hats, bucket hats, you name it, different colors, visors, all different styles, men's, women's. And it's not just the hats, but I'm showcasing them now. Anything in the store, aside from just certain NIL-related things, you're talking about 20% off using promo code INSIGHT20. You can do the same thing at the store. If you see Jeremy and Harry in person, just tell them Canes Insight, INSIGHT20, and they'll take care of you. Kevin Dennis, I'm at the U right now, and he's still on the show. Man, you're like this Cal Ripken of the chat, man. You're always holding it down. Appreciate you. D. Briz, any word on Tank Jones or Bryce Perry Wright, two very talented defensive ends out of the Southeast. Bryce Perry Wright from Bruford, Georgia. Anthony Tank Jones from Mobile, Alabama. I heard we're still in the game there. I mean, these are battles, but we're in them, man. We're working. So I have not heard new information. Nolan Wilson's kind of the flavor of the week because he's visiting, but I'll dig in on those two. Tim, how do collectors move forward with the rev sharing? they already have moved forward. I mean, they're involved in a lot of these deals. A lot of deals were entered into before the most recent deadline that are being serviced. So, I mean, Canes Connection is just a huge part of everything that Miami is doing, and they're not going anywhere. I promise you that. So, and by the way, they're a huge competitive advantage. Everybody's got revenue. Not everybody has a collective like Canes Connection, which is why you see a Jackson Cantwell. You see a lot of these kind of guys. That's why it's important to support. Canes Connections are always on the front, the cutting edge, making sure that Miami is in a position to succeed. Kyle, I've seen some running back group rankings. Miami's not getting much love. I think that's a great misjudgment. Miami's backfield will be really good this season. Yeah, I've seen those are all over the place. I think we're in good shape. It's going to come down to Jordan Lyle and how much he progresses. But I think with him, with Mark Fletcher, and then Marty Brown, Shamar Brown, who is FCS, but for the FCS National Championship, North Dakota State Bisons that have produced a ton of NFL players. He was a 1,000-yard rusher, won the FCS Jerry Rice Award, which is like the best young player in FCS. Cam Ward won in the past. Shador Sanders won in the past. A couple NFL running backs have won in the past. Terrence West, Chase Edmonds. So prestigious award. He won that. Big get. I think we got some really, really good running backs and Gerard Pringle. Someone to keep an eye on. I got to go. I got to catch a flight over 1,800 on. Like and subscribe to the show. Appreciate you. And go Canes, man. See you in Miami.